There's no problem by becoming rich. Take all your money, buy Bitcoin.
You can wake up every morning and say GM.
GM. All right. Today's Friday, the 11th of October. Simple one today. I'm going to update Bitcoin because Bitcoin is going to be the determinant of what happens next across the market. So, two paths I see. Either Bitcoin is going to grind lower or it is going to have quite a strong rally. And first path is one I mentioned a couple of days back, or was it yesterday? Can't even remember. Take out the lows, take out the 200 EMA, rally to new highs. Strong reversal, or rally towards that. It's not going to be exact, but we did get the sweep of those lows. We did close back inside. We are above the 200 EMA on the daily. So from there, I expect BTC to be able to make its way to the highs, especially if it gets above 61.5, these other bands. If it clears above yesterday's high, which is 61.279, clears above 61.5, momentum at that point can likely carry it through in a strong move towards 64.5 and then even 66. Now, I do expect a pullback from there if we get it. I think that would be like what would send people into FOMO and, they'd start padding in again and we'd have some more correction. But that remains valid as long as we're above this 200. Now, if we go back below it today for another retest or a sweep down, that would not invalidate for my idea. I'm waiting for a second push or expecting a possible second push. Mentioned this here last night, where you would reclaim into the close, you would reclaim the 200, which it did, and then you would have an early sweep down in this session. So far, we haven't. It's 9 a.m. Bitcoin has rallied pretty much continually off the lows. So we'll be watching as we go around the New York session. If we see some kind of sharp dump down in the New York session and then a reclaim, it's a very clear sign. Of course, we might just continue to rally all the way. And for that, if you're trading it intraday or trading it with that in mind, then this 200 EMA should hold. So it's basically 60K. And in between there and here, you're looking at, chop and above 61.5. I think that's where it flies. You're also coming into the weekend, so I don't think all of this move is going to happen today. If it does happen, possibly, but we might be something that we're looking at for Sunday or Monday, if it's going to happen. Then again, you never know. But anyway, so other couple of paths I mentioned, I'll talk about these on Trade of the Day, about where it could pull back from and where you could trade if you're going to see a sweep of the lows. Stuff like that. I am long myself. I mentioned in day trader chat. Longed a little bit at the lows as a day trade. Took off profit at the 200 EMA and have got a little bit running, with the idea of turning it into a swing trade. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. Now, that's one path. As for a higher time frame view, I mentioned this a while back. This famous squiggle path, where we topped out around FOMC, we went lower, we went to new lows around, and we bottomed around the second FOMC. This is all based around those two meetings. We topped around the first meeting here in July. We bottomed around the second meeting in September, which you see here. We bottomed out in August, higher low was formed in early September, and we've been moving up since then. And so if you're looking at this path here, you'd be somewhere along here, you rally up, you come back, consolidate, and then make your push towards the highs on BTC sometime going into December. I think that's pretty fair to still, I'm not going to look at like this exact path or anything like that. I'm more looking at it from a time perspective now. And so for BTC, I still see us having a green October, which is here. Right? That's October's monthly open. And I think that we're probably around the election will be the time of the next potential peak. I think there'll be a rally into the election and then some cool off. So if that's going to happen, then I think we will have a bottom forming, and this is going to now be like probably the bearish path, is if we reject. So if we aren't able to get above 61.5, then I think it spends some time chopping down and then rallies pretty much into the election. And then from there we sort of consolidate and then we lift off, get into the end of the year. That would be my best guess. That would probably take some stops down here, possibly, or just come back for a retest of this level. This is to me, this is an untested level. It came in, spent a day, rallied back, has not retested. So that's one of the things where I'm looking at whether we go down from here or whether we have the strong rally from here. I think we can come back to this area. Now, the strong rally is going to be like the most violent. If we've rallied to those highs, took them out, come all the way back down to here, that's chaos. So that could be a reason for it to happen or not. That would look like this. Moving up, moving down, and then moving up, right? So I've mentioned this from the start of the week, or maybe even last week, or the start of the month. I talked about liquidity, and this is how it's playing out. I said this whenever we were over here. BTC for the next little while, I'm confident it's going to new all-time highs. I'm confident it's going higher. But in between then, it's all about highs and lows. It's taking out the lows. It's rallying to the highs. And when it takes the highs, it drops back. It's liquidity. It's targeting the key areas where people's stops are going to be. Now here, it looks like it's took that liquidity reversing. That doesn't mean it's going to. I would not be surprised to see another week. Maybe there's some bad news. Maybe there's some fear, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the manufactured news is. Where it grinds a bit lower, takes out these stops, and gives a proper retest of this 58k area. Triggers some people's invalidations, right? A lot of people are betting on 60. If it goes to 58, people are going to panic. And then run from there to this high in the election, around then, pull back, and away we go. I mostly view this from also, by the way, if it follows something roughly like this, that's where you're looking at the end of October being green. So there's October's open. So you would get the green October, but you would get it in the most painful way possible. Everyone betting on October is just like, whipsawed back and forth, and it actually does end up green. And then maybe it's November where we see a bit more of a move, or even December. Point of all this is, why does all this matter? Well, BTC is a, over $1 trillion asset. It has taken 8 months. It took from March to August. It took 5 months from top to bottom. And it's in the rebuilding process. A month is nothing for Bitcoin. Meaning, it can go that rally, right? That you could say down wherever we bottom, we rally into the election. You're probably nothing's happening for the next month after that. That's early November. You zoom forward just 1 month, and that's how it's going to look. And when you zoom it out, that's how it kind of has to look. Because it's such a big asset, it's just going to build its way through, and then the real momentum moves begin when it starts to break out. And that's where you get your 3, 6, 12, 1 or 2 or 3 month rallies, the proper rallies. But these are rotations. Within range rotations, they tend to follow a couple of weeks up, couple of weeks down, 3 weeks up, couple of weeks chop, because it's building and building and building and building. It's building energy. So that's what I'm looking at. I'm pretty confident in one of these two paths, and they're both very clearly and able to be traded. The momentum trade would really begin for this one above 61.5. And the other one would be probably easier because you would just do nothing and let Bitcoin chop down into that 58k area and start to get long once it's breaking structure again to the upside. And that's about it. Trade of the day, I'm going to break down the exact trading paths for BTC today if we go moon or we go for a retest at the lows. And that is it. Why this matters too is this will also be how I'll view my meme coin, altcoin positions, right? Let's say Bitcoin has this move here and we rally for the next 5-6 days, right? Maybe there's a sweep down later on today or Saturday or whatever, but then it rallies basically until Tuesday or Wednesday. That's a period where some of these meme coins I don't know if it's going to be giga necessarily. But some of these meme coins that are like this, that are seem like they're done. I mean, there's a better giga chart. Where is it? Yeah, there's charts like this where people are like, oh, this is topped. This is clearly, over. And it's probably not, and it probably holds, right? And then Bitcoin tops out, whatever, early next week, and of course the memes then run after as Bitcoin consolidates, and you see these huge moves. And that's the top. And then Bitcoin goes for its pullback, as do the memes. So there's very possibly another big leg to come on some of these. The thing I want to make really clear is that is contingent upon BTC not breaking down lower here. If Bitcoin starts to bleed for a week, it's going to be hard for those memes to have bigger moves. They're probably going to top or chop. So if you do see this sharp move, it's going to just, again, ignite the FOMO. Typically then at somewhere around the high, Bitcoin would chop for a few days. It doesn't just drop straight off, right? It's like here. It's like when you pumped into this high here. These 3 days after it, that's when alts will run. And it only takes, again, go look at these meme coin charts. It takes 1 day for some of these enormous candles to form. And this is how you can stay ahead of it from an emotional perspective. And you always have to have an idea what's going on with Bitcoin, so you can be better positioned to attack alt trades. And so, alternative, if it chopped lower for a week and then rallied for a more extended rallied for 2 or 3 weeks, you're probably going to see a rotation into different alts at that point, because some of these other ones are very close to their end of their moves. They're either going to have this blow off top or they're not, because they're just in, full breakout parabolic phases. But if you see a chop down and then what would this be like? Chop down until a week more of chop, right, next Friday, so 1 week from now, and then rallies for what's that, 2 weeks? Rallies from the 20th till the 4th. Yeah. Let's just say, for example, you went down for 1 more week and then up for 2 weeks. That's 3 weeks total. You'd have to look across these other coins and think, okay, well, what can Giga do in the next 3 weeks? Right, 3 weeks takes you to early November. I don't think it's going to continue rallying until then, unless it was able to do a longer consolidation and then the final push comes around that time. My view would be for another downwards week, if you had more chop to the downside. You might see some of these spending their week going down and then really starting to move. Stuff like the WIF that sort of seems like it's lagging, or Pepe, which might need to take out a low, right? If Bitcoin did that chop down for a week, guess what? Pepe is going to probably sweep those lows and then run from there. And that's when it's going to have its next big move. Do you understand? These things are not living in their own vacuum. They are correlated to Bitcoin. Absolutely. Wolf got back to that, I think it was the 200 EMA. Yeah, held it nicely, reversing off it. It's exactly what you want to see in terms of just building a consolidation. So, nice stuff there. It's defended the 4-hour trend. So you want to drop down then and see how's the 1-hour trend looking. And this needs to cross, right? So that's still bearish. You have the 15-minute, which is just cross bullish. So you're starting to get your lower time frames building into the higher time frame. Next one to watch would be the 1 hour. And I don't expect this to just moon. I think it's setting up. I think it's building a consolidation that might eventually lead to a breakout later on. Your invalidation of that, of course, is if it goes back down. Because really, if it retraces this move back down, it's highly likely to lose the 4-hour trend because the 50 and the 100 are close to crossing. It'll lose the lower time frame trends. And at that point, you're probably looking at it dropping down for more chop. So anyway, that's Bitcoin, a bit of a way to think about BTC in relation to your alts, especially when they're moving. And GM. See you later. 4 p.m. UTC, casual Fridays. Let's go.